Good afternoon and welcome to the Software Engineering Institute's webinar series. My name is Shane McGraw and I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar. Our SEI webinar series presentation today is the next generation of process evolution presented by speaker Gene Millick. And before I turn the presentation over to the presenter, I'd like to ask three back-to-back polling questions. They'll all be quick, but this is going to get us a better idea of who's in the audience today and provide a little information on what areas Gene can move a little more quickly through. So our first question is, are you new to CMMI and process improvement? Okay, for the first one, about 90% of you were not new to CMMI. Thanks for that. Our next question is, does your organization already have CMMI-based process a CMMI-based process improvement effort in place? Okay, for that one, about 70% of you are using CMMI now. And lastly, do you work in a small to medium enterprise? By that we mean having less than 15 software developers on staff. Okay, and for that one, about 80% of you do not work in a small environment. Okay, and now I'd like to turn the presentation over to Gene Millick. Gene?
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. First thing I want to say is I'm much younger and thinner than my picture looks.
Aren't we all?
So anyway, a little bit of background for me and the filter I'm going through. I was a developer for many years before I came to the SEI. I was a small business consultant in the software area. But my 19 years at the SEI have been mostly on the road working with organizations implementing the process improvement technology. So my perspective is mostly from the implementation side. All right. I'm trying to move it down.
Yeah, let's try this one more time. Should be
all right.
Good. Oh. Get through those. Okay.
All right. Well, a little bit of startup issues is normal. Okay, so here are the topics that I'd like to cover in this short webinar. And I say short webinar because I really struggle to fit what I want to tell you into this time frame. And there's several areas here I think are worthy of their own webinar, and we'll talk about that as we go through. But basically, I want to start with the background. What is AIM? Does it work? Second is, why is it important? And does it provide superior performance? And a little bit about how. And basically at the bottom is the AIM value proposition. And AIM stands for Accelerated Improvement Method. And that's just the name we came up with it for now. Very simple. I know most of you are familiar with the CMMI, but for those who are not, let me go very quickly. The picture you see on top is Watts Humphrey, who's basically the father of software process. I encourage you to get his books. He's one of the reasons that I'm here at the SEI. Watts came from IBM. SEI is a federally funded research and development center focused on software. We're not a commercial organization. And the DoD wanted us to look at the issues associated with developing software. Watts looked at what happened at IBM, took the best practices, and created a model for best practices of software development. It's called a capability maturity model. And to me, that's the first generation of software process. I believe it was very, very successful. And then the DoD said, wow, these maturity models, best practices models seem to be working. Other people started developing. There was the systems engineering one. There was a whole bunch of them. And the DoD basically said, no, we don't want a proliferation of 10,000 models. We want to integrate those models. So we integrated, mainly the first one was with the systems engineering with the NDIA, National Defense Industry Association. And that effort, I don't like to say SEI jumped into that with both feet. Not exactly. It was a little reluctance. But that was a community effort to integrate models. And I spent quite a bit of time working with the development of that and then the appraisal method. But in the meantime, and that was generation 2, In the meantime, Watts Humphrey took an interesting departure, and I seem to always be about 10 years behind this genius. He said, you know what, the maturity models, the capability models create the organizational infrastructure, but there's a lot missing underneath. There's the team infrastructure and the personal infrastructure. And he went on his own research in parallel, I guess, with CMMI, developing that infrastructure that was underneath. Okay, so I'd like to say that SEI is completely integrated enterprise. I'd like to, but we're not.